All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back for another deep dive.
Yes, welcome back.
So this week we are tackling a topic that's, front of mind, I think, for a lot of folks in the healthcare world.
Absolutely.
Homeownership,
Yeah.
buying that first place, you
Yeah,
know?
it's a big one.
Yeah. And there are some, unique challenges, I think, that come with being a healthcare professional and trying to navigate that whole world.
Yeah.
So we're gonna dive into all that today, talk about some of those challenges, but then also some of the really exciting opportunities that are out there that are specifically designed for healthcare professionals.
Absolutely. There are a lot more than people realize.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're gonna cover the financial prep,
Mm.
getting your ducks in a row, so to speak.
Right.
We're gonna talk about mortgage options and what kind of loans are out there, what makes sense for different folks, finding the right home, what to be looking for in a property. And then also, the elephant in the room, sometimes relocation. How do you balance that desire to own a home with the reality that your career might take you to different places?
Especially early on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's jump right in, I guess, and start with that financial piece,
Yeah.
because I think that's, you know, probably the biggest hurdle that a lot of folks feel like they're facing.
It is.
I was talking to my cousin the other day. She's a nurse, and she's like, yeah, I feel like my student loans are just like this never ending, IV drip.
Yeah.
Like it's just always there. It's always, taking away from my ability to save.
Yeah. I hear that a lot, and the truth is, healthcare professionals, they go through a lot of training,
Yeah.
and that often comes with a lot of student debt.
Right.
So it's definitely something that we need to talk about and address head on.
So what are some strategies or tips that folks can use to kind of get a handle on those loans while also trying to put some money aside for that down payment?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest thing is really understanding your loans. Like you said, it's an IV drip, but do you know like the exact terms of your IV drip,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So are you able to refinance? Are there lower interest rates out there? Are you eligible for any forgiveness programs like PSLF?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that exists, but it's a huge benefit.
Huge.
And then of course budgeting is key.
Right.
Making sure that you have a plan in place that, you're able to meet your loan obligations, but also, set aside even if it's a small amount every month towards that future down payment.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned PSLF because I actually just had a friend who recently got a big chunk of her loans forgiven through that program, and it was like, life-changing for her.
Yeah, it really can be.
And she had no idea that she was even eligible for it until she started doing some research.
Yeah, a lot of people don't, and it's free money essentially. If you qualify, you should absolutely take advantage of it.
Absolutely. So it's definitely worth looking into. So we've tackled the loans. We're working smarter, not harder with
Yeah,
those.
right.
And the other piece of the financial puzzle, I guess, is the credit score.
Yes.
That's kind of like your financial GPA.
Oh, exactly.
So how can we make sure that our credit score is a healthy patient,
Yes.
so to speak?
That's a great analogy. And it's so important because that credit score is really what's going to determine, what kind of loan terms you get, what kind of interest rate you get.
Right.
And so the good news is that even with fluctuating income, which a lot of healthcare professionals have, especially early on,
Right.
there are things that you can do to improve your credit score.
Okay.
The biggest one is just paying your bills on time.
Right.
Sounds simple, but it's so important.
Yeah. Set those reminders.
Yes, exactly. Set those reminders. Use technology to your advantage.
Yep.
Another thing is keeping your credit card balances low.
Okay.
Ideally under 30% of your limit. That's kind of the magic number.
Okay.
And then also just checking your credit report regularly.
Right.
You can get a free one from each of the 3 major credit bureaus every year, so there's no excuse not to do it.
Yeah. And sometimes there are errors on there
Absolutely.
that you don't even realize are hurting you.
Yeah. So it's always good to just keep an eye on it, make sure that everything is accurate.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've tackled the loans. We've polished the credit score.
Yes.
Now comes, I think, the big one for a lot of folks, the down payment.
Yes.
I know this is something that can feel really daunting, especially when you're already dealing with those student loans.
Right.
But I've heard that there are some really amazing programs out there specifically for healthcare heroes.
There are.
Um, so tell me about those.
So there's this whole world of down payment assistance that a lot of people just don't know about.
Okay.
And it's really exciting because it can make a huge difference in your ability to buy a home.
Right.
So one example is the physician loan program.
Okay.
This is amazing because you can potentially get a mortgage with as little as 0% down
Wow.
versus, the typical 3 to 5% that most people have to put down.
Right.
So that can be a huge savings right there.
Yeah, 0 down. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
And are there other programs besides the physician loan program?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really depends on your state, but there are a lot of state-specific programs that are designed for healthcare workers.
Okay.
So, you might qualify for grants.
Right.
There are different things out there. So it's
No.
definitely worth doing your research and seeing what's available in your area.
So how do you even find out about these programs? Is it just, Googling or?
Yeah, I mean, Googling is a good place to start. You can also talk to your lender.
Right.
They should be knowledgeable about what's available.
Okay.
And then also don't forget to check with your employer.
Oh.
Because sometimes employers offer down payment assistance as part of their benefits package.
Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't, but it's definitely worth asking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so we've got our finances prepped.
Yes.
We've got those down payment options, in our
Right.
pocket.
Right.
So let's talk about kind of the next step, which is getting pre-approved for a mortgage.
Yeah, so pre-approval is basically, getting your financial ducks in a row.
Right.
It's showing sellers that you're serious about buying a house.
Right.
It helps you understand exactly how much house you can afford.
Okay.
And it also gives you an edge in a competitive market.
Right, because the seller knows that you're good to go, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah, you've already been vetted by a lender.
Okay.
So it just makes the whole process a lot smoother.
Okay, so what if, our listener has a higher debt to income ratio, which, I think is pretty common for folks early in their careers, especially in healthcare.
Especially in healthcare.
Does that mean that pre-approval is like off the table?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It definitely can impact, what kind of loan terms you get.
Right.
But there are lenders who specialize in working with healthcare professionals.
Okay.
And they understand, the unique financial trajectory of your career.
Okay.
So they'll take into account your earning potential.
Okay.
They'll factor in things like bonuses or overtime pay.
Right.
So, it's definitely still possible to get pre-approved even if you have a higher debt to income ratio.
That's good to know. That's reassuring.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got that pre-approval letter in hand. Now the fun part begins, the house hunt.
Yes.
Any tips for folks on how to find that, perfect place?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is to find a real estate agent who speaks healthcare. Someone who understands the importance of proximity to hospitals.
Right.
Flexible closing timelines.
Right.
Those unpredictable on-call schedules.
Right.
Those are all things that a good real estate agent who understands the healthcare world will be able to help you with.
Yeah, absolutely, because you don't want to be, house hunting and then suddenly get called into, a 12-hour shift and have to cancel everything.
Exactly. Yeah, you need someone who's flexible and understanding.
Right. Okay. So you found the one.
Yes.
The dream home.
The dream home.
How do you make your offer stand out?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, the first thing is to understand contingencies.
Okay.
Contingencies are basically like safety nets in your contract.
Okay.
So, for example, an inspection contingency lets you back out of the deal if the home inspection reveals major problems.
Right.
An appraisal contingency ensures that the property is valued appropriately. So, those are just a couple of examples, but there are other contingencies that you can include as well.
Okay.
And it's really important to understand what those contingencies mean and how they protect you.
Right.
And then, of course, be prepared to negotiate.
Right.
But also be realistic. In a hot market, you might need to be more flexible with certain terms.
Right.
But, don't be afraid to ask for what you want.
Right.
And just be prepared to walk away if the deal isn't right for you.
Yeah, contingency safety nets.
Yeah.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about relocation, because I think that's a reality for a lot of folks in healthcare.
Yeah.
My sister's a traveling nurse and she's always on the move.
Yeah.
So how do you how do you balance that desire to own a home with the reality that your career might take you to different places?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Right.
I think it really depends on your individual circumstances. Residency fellowships, job changes, those can all impact your housing plans.
Right.
So it's really about weighing the pros and cons of different housing solutions.
Okay.
Renting might offer more flexibility in the short term.
Right.
But if you're planning to stay in an area for a few years, buying could be a better investment.
Okay.
It's really a personal decision, but it's something that you need to think about carefully.
Yeah. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just about what's right for you.
Exactly.
And then there's also the age-old debate of rural versus urban living.
Right.
And I imagine that's even more crucial for healthcare professionals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some things to think about there?
I mean, I think, the first thing is to think about your career goals.
Okay.
If you're specializing in a high demand field,
Right.
being near a major medical hub might make more sense for career growth.
Okay.
Even if it comes with a higher cost of living.
Right.
Rural areas often offer more affordable housing,
Okay.
but access to specialized care or professional networks might be more limited.
Right.
It's really about, what's important to you.
Right.
And what your priorities are.
Okay, so after all that searching and negotiating, you finally reached the big day, closing day.
Yes,
You're a
congratulations.
homeowner.
You did it.
Champagne pops, keys in hand. But now what?
Now the fun begins.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are some things that our listeners should be thinking about? Now that they've crossed the finish line and they're homeowners.
Yeah. So, I think the biggest thing is to remember that homeownership comes with responsibilities.
Right.
Property taxes, homeowners insurance maintenance.
Yeah.
Those are all things that you need to budget for.
Right.
And it's essential to make sure that you have the funds available to cover those costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. And speaking of maintenance, any tips for our busy healthcare professionals on how to keep their home in tip-top shape even with those crazy work schedules?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is to not be afraid to outsource.
Okay.
Hiring professionals for lawn care, cleaning those honey-do list items.
Right.
That can be a game changer.
Yeah.
And then also, remember that preventative maintenance can save you a lot of headaches and money down the road.
Right.
It's like taking care of your patients.
Right.
Regular checkups, early intervention are key.
Okay, before we wrap up, I
Mhm.
have to ask, are there any secret resources or hidden gems that maybe folks aren't aware of?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So many healthcare employers offer housing assistance or relocation packages.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't even realize that that's an option.
Right.
So definitely don't be afraid to ask.
Okay.
And then on a federal level, check out the National Health Service Corps Loan Repayment Program. So the NHSC, they offer loan repayment to healthcare professionals who are working in underserved communities.
Okay.
And that can free up some serious cash for your mortgage.
Wow. Okay, so that's a great tip. NHSC loan repayment program.
Yes,
Right. So we've covered a lot of ground today,
we have.
from conquering those student loans to finding, hidden down payment assistance to even navigating the relocation maze.
Yes.
So what does all this mean for our listeners?
It means that homeownership is possible.
Yes.
Even with the unique demands of a career in healthcare.
Absolutely.
By using the right resources and strategies, you can turn that dream of owning a home into a reality.
Yeah, I love that. And it's not easy,
No,
but it's definitely achievable.
absolutely.
So for all of our listeners out there, who are thinking about taking this step, what's that next step?
I think, start researching those loan programs.
Okay.
Connect with a healthcare savvy real estate agent.
Yes.
And just remember, you've got this.
Yeah, you've got a whole community cheering you on.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise with us today.
Of course, happy to be here.
And for all of our listeners out there, we're here to support you on your journey to homeownership. So keep us posted on your progress and best of luck.
Yes. Good luck, everyone.
All right, that's it for this week's Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.